Chosen one, this message is not appearing in your life by accident. Pause for a moment. Breathe deeply. What you are about to hear is not meant to entertain your emotions or fill your time. It is meant to wake something up inside you. Heaven is not speaking because you are bored. Heaven is speaking because a shift has already begun. There are moments when God allows encouragement, and there are moments when God releases instruction. This is one of those moments. Something in your spirit already knows it. The restlessness, the pressure, the sense that something must change is not confusion, it is calling. And today, God is narrowing your focus, not to limit you, but to prepare you. Stay with me, because what you do with this word will shape what happens next. A divine interruption. Chosen one, this moment did not arrive quietly by accident. Something beyond timing, beyond algorithms, beyond coincidence has aligned for you to hear these words right now. Even if you clicked without thinking, even if you planned to leave after a few seconds, something deeper has already pulled your attention inward. That pause you felt before continuing is not random, it is recognition. Take a breath, not to relax, but to listen. There are moments when life speaks through noise, urgency, and pressure, and then there are moments when God speaks through stillness, through an inner awareness that says, "Pay attention." This is one of those moments. Heaven is not competing for your focus, it is interrupting it, not to entertain you, not to inspire you emotionally for a few minutes, but to awaken something that has been dormant longer than you realize. You have been moving, functioning, producing, yet sensing that something is unfinished, not broken, not lost, but unfinished. A subtle dissatisfaction that doesn't come from failure, but from misalignment. You've tried to ignore it by staying busy. You've tried to drown it out with routine, conversation, and noise, but it keeps resurfacing, quietly reminding you that there is more required of you. This is how calling announces itself. God does not always shout, often He interrupts. He steps into your flow and rearranges your attention. He disrupts your comfort, not because He is displeased with you, but because what He is preparing to entrust to you cannot survive distraction. There are seasons where encouragement sustains you, and seasons where instruction realigns you. This is not a season for vague motivation. This is a season for clarity. What you are sensing is not pressure from the world, it is weight from purpose, and purpose always carries gravity. That inner urgency you feel is not anxiety. Anxiety scatters the mind. This feeling focuses it. It narrows your thoughts. It draws your attention inward instead of outward. It is the quiet knock of assignment asking to be acknowledged. You may not fully understand why now. You may not see the entire picture, but something in your spirit already knows that staying the same is no longer an option. God does not interrupt lives that are going nowhere. He interrupts lives that are moving towards something significant, but slightly off course. Small adjustments now prevent costly detours later. This is why the message feels personal, because it is. Heaven is not addressing the crowd in you, it is speaking to the core, to the part of you that knows you were not created merely to exist, survive, or blend in, to the part of you that senses responsibility even before recognition. God is narrowing your focus not to shrink your life, but to strengthen it. Precision always comes before expansion. Stay present, not because every word will be comfortable, but because every word is intentional. What comes next is not information meant to be stored, it is direction meant to be followed.
Reassignment is not rejection. When God shifts your direction, the first lie that often rises is this: I must have done something wrong. Human systems train us to associate change with failure, correction with punishment, and reassignment with loss of status. But the kingdom of God does not operate on human logic. God does not reassign people because they disappointed Him. He reassigns people because they have proven dependable. Reassignment is evidence of trust. In the natural world, fragile objects are handled carefully and kept away from pressure. Heavy weight is reserved for strong structures. God does the same with people. He does not place serious responsibility on unstable foundations. When He begins to adjust your focus, increase expectations, or remove your margin for error, it is because He has already evaluated your capacity. You survived what should have broken you. You remained standing when others walked away. You were faithful when no one was watching. And now the season has changed. What feels like loss is often preparation. What feels like reduction is often refinement. God removes certain supports not to abandon you, but to strengthen what must carry the future. You may notice that things which once energized you now feel empty. Roles that once fit now feel tight. Environments that once felt safe now feel restrictive. This is not dissatisfaction, it is transition. God is not dismantling your life, He is redistributing weight. The pressure you feel is not condemnation, it is confirmation that more is being entrusted to you. Increase always carries responsibility. Favor always attracts expectation. Elevation always demands maturity, and maturity is rarely comfortable. It stretches the inner life before it ever expands the outer one. God is not rushing you forward blindly, He is reinforcing you internally. He strengthens character before He increases influence. He deepens roots before He extends reach. If He allowed expansion without reinforcement, the very thing meant to bless you would collapse you. This is why the process feels intense, not chaotic, focused, not confusing, clarifying. Something is settling inside you, a seriousness, a sobriety, a clear awareness that casual faith will no longer sustain what you are about to carry. God is calling you out of familiarity and into stewardship. You are not behind, you are not unqualified, you are not being corrected, you are being entrusted. One primary assignment. There comes a moment in every calling when God simplifies everything, not because life becomes easier, but because complexity becomes dangerous. When the assignment increases, distractions become costly. God does not ask you to do more in this season. He asks you to do what He said, without negotiation. This is where many people struggle, not with hearing God, but with narrowing their focus to obey Him fully. You may still be capable of many things. You may still have options, skills, and opportunities, but capability does not equal calling. Just because you can do something does not mean you are assigned to it now. God begins to remove secondary missions, not because they are sinful, but because they compete with what matters most. What once felt harmless now feels heavy. What once felt manageable now feels distracting. What once felt optional now feels urgent to release. This is not random. This is alignment. God is not asking for balance. Balance assumes divided attention. God is asking for obedience, which requires singular focus. There is one primary assignment in this season, and everything else must serve it or step aside, not permanently, seasonally. Some things are good, but not now. Some relationships are real, but not relevant to where God is taking you next. This is why indecision feels exhausting. You were never meant to carry everything forward. You were meant to move forward aligned. God removes clutter not to deprive you, but to clarify your direction. Simplicity is not a downgrade. It is a sign of maturity. Your responsibility is not to manage outcomes, timelines, or reactions. Your responsibility is to obey. When obedience becomes conditional, dependent on comfort, understanding, or approval, it loses its power. God speaks with precision because precision protects purpose. This season is about alignment, not negotiation, movement, not analysis, response, not delay. There is one assignment demanding your full attention, and everything in your spirit already knows which one it is.
The subtle danger of distraction. Distractions rarely announce themselves as enemies. If they did,
they would be easy to resist. Instead, they arrive quietly, wrapped in familiarity, routine, and reason. They do not feel wrong, they feel normal, and that is what makes them dangerous. Distractions do not always pull you into sin. Often they pull you out of alignment. Some distractions look like relationships that require constant emotional energy. Others look like habits that consume time without producing growth. Some appear as cycles you keep revisiting because they feel safe, even though they lead nowhere. These things are not always bad, but they are costly when they begin to occupy space reserved for purpose. Comfort is seductive. It promises relief without transformation, but comfort can become a cage when it replaces conviction. Familiarity can become bondage when it keeps you from moving forward. God is not calling you to abandon everything, but He is calling you to discern what no longer belongs in this phase. This is why your tolerance has changed. What you once accepted now irritates your spirit. What you once enjoyed now drains you. What once fit now feels out of place. God is pruning, not punishing. Pruning creates space for fruit. Without it, growth becomes crowded and weak. Destiny requires margin. Margin requires removal. This is not about fear or control. It is about focus. Distractions are especially effective against people with calling because they redirect without resistance. The enemy does not need to stop you, only to slightly turn you. A small shift in direction, sustained over time, leads far from the intended destination. God is sharpening your discernment because desire alone is no longer sufficient. At this level, discernment must lead. Not every good option is a God option. Not every open door is an assigned door. You are being trained to recognize what pulls you off alignment, even when it feels reasonable. The cost of delayed obedience. Hesitation often disguises itself as wisdom. It sounds responsible, it feels careful. But in seasons of instruction, hesitation becomes expensive. Delayed obedience is not neutral. It carries consequences that extend further than you can see. What you postpone today quietly shapes tomorrow. God does not revoke His calling because of delay, but delay weakens momentum. It stretches timelines. It multiplies resistance. Partial obedience limits spiritual authority because authority flows from alignment, not intention. Heaven responds to action, not agreement. You can believe deeply and still resist subtly. You can pray passionately and still delay movement. You can feel conviction and still choose comfort. But feelings do not move heaven. Obedience does. What makes delay dangerous is not the moment itself, but the pattern it creates. One postponed response makes the next one easier to delay. Over time, clarity fades, urgency dulls, and conviction weakens. Small compromises accumulate until purpose feels distant, even though it never moved. God is not pressuring you out of impatience. He is protecting you from drift. There are instructions that carry timing within them. A delayed yes is not the same as an immediate yes. Some doors respond to readiness, not enthusiasm, and readiness is proven by response. This is why God often speaks clearly, then waits, not to confuse you, but to reveal what truly governs your decisions. You do not need more information. You do not need another sign. You need to act on what you already know. Obedience simplifies life. Disobedience complicates it. When you obey, God assumes responsibility for outcomes, resistance, and provision. When you delay, you inherit stress that was never meant to be yours. This moment is not about perfection. It is about response.
Discipline and ordered steps. God does not lead randomly. He leads sequentially. Each instruction is connected to the next, forming a path that only becomes visible as you walk it. This is why impatience struggles here. The desire to see the destination often tempts you to skip steps, but skipped steps create unstable ground. Discipline is how God prepares you to walk what He reveals. Not discipline driven by fear, but discipline rooted in purpose. Discipline in thought, choosing what you dwell on. Discipline in speech, guarding what you declare. Discipline in time, protecting what you prioritize. Discipline in obedience, responding without delay. This is not restriction, it is structure. Structure carries weight. Without it, growth collapses under its own expansion. God's order is not about control, it is about sustainability. Every step He assigns carries grace for that level. The grace does not transfer if the step is skipped. You may feel eager to move faster. You may feel capable of more. But readiness is not measured by enthusiasm. It is proven by consistency. God does not reveal step 10 while you are standing on step 3, not to withhold information, but to protect integrity. Obedience teaches timing. Timing teaches trust. Trust produces endurance. Discipline sharpens spiritual hearing. When your life becomes ordered, God's voice becomes clearer. Noise reduces, confusion fades, direction strengthens. You begin to recognize the difference between urgency driven by fear and urgency driven by purpose. This is how movement accelerates, quietly, steadily, accurately. You stop comparing paths. You stop chasing voices. You stop forcing doors. You listen. You move. You trust. And the simplicity that follows is not limitation. It is focus, refined. Generational and invisible impact. Obedience is rarely loud at first. Its greatest impact often unfolds beyond your line of sight. While you are responding in private, shifts are occurring in places you cannot see. Doors are aligning. Resistance is weakening. Futures are being affected without your awareness. This is because obedience never ends with you. Your response carries weight beyond your lifetime. Decisions you make now shape environments you may never enter. Faithfulness you practice today prepares paths for people you have not met. Discipline you embrace quietly breaks cycles loudly. God often hides the full impact of obedience to protect humility. If you saw everything your obedience would unlock, pride would compete with faith. So God allows you to walk by trust, not visibility. You obey because He spoke, not because you can measure the outcome. This is why obedience matters even when it feels small. A conversation you avoid, a habit you release, a step you take quietly. None of it is wasted. You were not placed in this moment randomly. Your position, your experiences, your timing, none are accidental. God positions people before He uses them, and when the moment comes, obedience activates what positioning prepared. You may feel ordinary, you may feel unseen, you may feel behind, but heaven measures impact differently. Faithfulness compounds, alignment multiplies, obedience echoes. This is legacy being formed in silence.
The call to alignment. There comes a point where complexity must give way to clarity, where overthinking must yield to obedience, where hesitation must bow to response. This is that point. Alignment is not a feeling, it is a decision repeated daily. You wake aligned by choosing what you give attention to. You speak aligned by choosing what you declare. You move aligned by choosing obedience over comfort. Alignment does not remove pressure, it redirects it. The weight you feel now is not meant to crush you, it is meant to anchor you. God is not asking you to figure everything out. He is asking you to stay positioned where His instruction can reach you without interference. Distractions fall when alignment strengthens.
Fear quiets when obedience becomes habit. Clarity sharpens when response becomes immediate. This is not about perfection, it is about consistency. God is faithful to complete what He initiates, but He partners with your obedience to do it. Alignment keeps you in that partnership. Heaven has already spoken. The instruction is already clear. The next step is already known. What remains is response. Chosen one, this moment is not ending by accident. What you've heard is not meant to stay as information, it is meant to become movement. God has been speaking clearly, consistently, and intentionally. The weight you feel is not confusion, it is confirmation. The urgency stirring inside you is not pressure from the world, it is alignment forming in real time. You are not standing at the edge of something small, you are standing at a point of decision. You do not need to understand every step, you do not need to see the entire path, you need to respond. Alignment is not proven by emotion, it is proven by action. Every time you choose obedience over comfort, clarity over distraction, faithfulness over approval, something in the spirit shifts. Doors move, resistance weakens, direction sharpens. This is not about perfection, it is about consistency. It is about saying yes, fully, clearly, without delay. If this message confirmed something you already felt deep inside, let your response be visible. Like this video as a sign of agreement. Subscribe so you don't miss the next word meant for this season of your life. Comment below where you're watching from, or simply write, "I choose alignment." Let it be a declaration, not just words. Your engagement is not just support, it is response. And response always unlocks the next step. Stay aligned, stay attentive, stay obedient. What God has started, He is faithful to complete.